In today's podcast, we will be addressing use of the C word, but we will get into that a bit later.
But first, we have a who is in the right dilemma, and this week it's our own dilemma, something that happened to us this week.
Yeah, so essentially, long story short, I work a lot in the week, and the girls had a gymnastics trial at a new gymnastics club. So I was like, absolutely buzzing, My oldest friend was going there, and she was like, yeah, great, let's go to this new trial. Oh, it was unbelievably stressful.
Oh, Daisy walked in from school and she was like, I'm not doing gymnastics. She's obviously been worrying about it all day long, I think. She's a bit like that. Came in and she's like, I'm not doing it, crying. I was like, why aren't you doing it? She's like, what if I'm not in her friend who's going to class, doesn't know anybody, like really anxious. And just trying to get her out of the house to go and do it was an absolute nightmare. And our youngest had a trial as well, and she was fine, weren't she? She was fine to go, and then she got there, and yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, well, I think when you're taking a child to a new club or maybe even a kids' party, and you're taking a child anywhere, I do think that some children, you see it, don't you? When your kids start school and they go to the reception parties and you're or maybe nursery and you go to this big group and then maybe the party's an hour and a half and then 10 minutes before the end of the party, that's when they start to warm up. Do you know what I mean? They sit on your lap. I don't know if anyone's experienced that, but I definitely have. Or you go to a party and they're kind of like koalaed to you for the first part of the party, and then they finally warm up, and then you think, oh, well, great, that's 10 minutes, we've got to leave. But yeah, so I took them to this gymnastics trial, and I just wanted the ground to swallow me up, really, because we walked in, everyone was fine, they were in their clothes, they were like buzzing to have a go, and then Ruby just sat on a bench, started crying, and refused to do it. And I was just, and I think as well, the lead up to me doing that, like I worked all day, I'd made sure their clothes were ready. I'd had to get my mum to pick them up from another club to take them home to get in time for this trial. We had to leave the house at 5 p.m. I rushed in from work. I got home at 1 minute past 5. And then it was just a whole,
I just think it's really frustrating because this was obviously a good class to get them in. And we know our girls, once they get into somewhere, they love it. Like, they just need a bit of time to warm up. But that initial first couple of sessions is often very difficult, isn't it? So I did a poll on Instagram, and it was the night that happened. I wrote, your child is anxious to go to a new club because they don't know anyone. What would you do? And the options were make them go first a couple of times or let them stay at home. And 92% said make them go first a couple of times. Had loads of messages like elaborating on that as well. Because I'm massive on this. I feel like I always say go 2 or 3 times, and then if you're not enjoying it, then they'll pull you out. But
I couldn't get them in.
No, I know.
Literally could not get them. I got them through the door, and then it was awful. All 3 of us. I just was sitting there thinking, oh, first of all, you kind of get embarrassed, don't you? Because people are looking at you and your kid's like sobbing. And it's like, no, she just literally, I don't know why she's sobbing. And then I knew they'd enjoy it once they get started. But it's that balance of how far should you push a child if they're in that state? And I ended up making the decision after about 20 minutes. And I just went up to the lady at the desk and I said, look, she's not in the right mental state to do this today. I know my child and she's not going to do this.
I think just taking her was I obviously support you having to take her. Just going, I don't want to go because I'm scared or I don't know anybody, and then staying at home is not going to set them up well for life, in my opinion.
I'd take them again.
Yeah, cool. You have to force them out of their comfort zone because life isn't comfortable. You have to do it as an adult. So if you're not always like, oh no, you're a bit scared, don't do it, then that is just setting them up for failure further down the line, in my opinion. And we know that 2 or 3 sessions in, they'd have loved that. It is incredibly frustrating, isn't it? I felt so much frustration when they didn't want to do it. But
the ironic thing was, it was a gymnastics trial. And we got home, and I think I was upstairs doing some washing, putting washing away, obviously, because that's all I ever do is put bloody washing away. And then I just heard this like cry and scream from downstairs, and I ran downstairs and Ruby's crying, clutching her face. And I said, what's happened? Daisy only bloody cartwheeled and then head-butted her, like kicked her in the face. And I thought, oh my God, so you wouldn't do it at the gymnastics trial, but you're quite happy to cartwheel around my house and then kick your sister in the face. So yeah, she's got a little black eye, bless her now.
Like someone wrote in saying, my daughter cries the first time at any club. We started bringing her home and she was upset she was missing out. And we felt cruel, but we persevered and danced and brownies with her crying for the first 2 to 3 sessions. And now she loves it, has so many friends and new activities. And that's the point as well.
Yeah.
They will end up not resenting you, but they will because, okay, you pull them out in that moment because it's more comfortable to pull them out. But then later down the line, they're like, my mum and dad should have forced me to do that.
Yeah.
They should have. They should have the first 2 or 3 sessions at least, because most kids, if they enjoy the activity, will meet 1 or 2 friends and then they'll start loving it from then. If they don't enjoy the activity, then of course you don't keep it going.
Yeah.
But it's like Daisy with her football. She's gone a few times and now she just loves it.
Watch this space. Will I take them again and go through that 20 minutes of crying on a bench, begging me to leave?
There was another good option as well. Tell the teacher that they feel anxious before you go.
Oh, the teachers were great.
Were they?
They did that. They tried that, and they said that her older sister could join in. And yeah, I think as well, it wasn't happening. It was 5 o'clock. Ruby's trial was 5 o'clock. Daisy's trial was 6:30. No, it was 7 actually, her trial. It was 7 p.m. And it was all just a little bit late, a little bit rushed. They'd been at school all day. They'd been to another club. They'd had my mum. Then they'd gone home to you. Then I had to pick them up. And I think it was just, yeah, it was manic. So, yeah, absolute failure.
Just
really.
one last point on this. Someone wrote in saying, sounds mean, but they learn confidence from being pushed. Only time I think it's too much if they're full on crying, which is what happened to us, and getting so physically worked up that the risk of making them more anxious is probably more than the benefit. That's a good point. Like if you over push them, if they're absolutely screaming or crying and you're overly pushing them, are you like creating, more anxiety in that moment? I don't know, it's a difficult one.
I don't know, but obviously as a primary school teacher for the last 15 years, and I've predominantly been with the younger children, that I see a lot of separation anxiety, and I have over the years, and I would say 99% of children, when their parents drop them at the door and maybe they're a bit upset or they're a bit anxious and they cry, 99% of children, by the time they get to the door or the time they get in the classroom, they're absolutely fine. It is just that idea of leaving. And possibly maybe it would have been better for me with the kids just to have dropped them off at the trial and left.
I think that would have.
Yeah, and then I wasn't there. They got stuck in.
Because our kids would probably have been embarrassed about crying without you there. Yeah. I don't think they would have kicked off without you there, but then they've got that comfort of doing that. I think in that instance, if we can get them there again, maybe just sort of
drop and leave.
Because
be cruel to be kind sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I think the longer you drag out that goodbye at these kind of things, if you have to do a drop and leave, school or a club that you can't stay and watch, I would say drop and leave is probably the best. And I'd like to think that whoever you're trusting them with at that time, if they hadn't settled within 10, 15 minutes and, they were getting distressed, just a quick phone call. Do you know what, actually, they're not settled. Can you just pop back?
Exactly. 99 times out of 100, that's not going to happen, is it? They're going to be settled. So do you think what we done was right in the sense that took them and brought them home, or would you do it differently next time?
In that instance, Ruby was absolute. And the thing is, I couldn't have dropped and leave because that wasn't the point of those classes. All the parents were sitting on the benches watching. Right. So I definitely want to contact the lady to say, obviously, Tuesday was a shit show, didn't really work. Maybe we could try it again. Let's try it again.
Yeah, it's just trying to get them out of the house is going to be the main.
It's because it's just another thing. I am convinced, and I know I bang on about this all the time, but I am convinced if I hadn't have been at work that day and I'd have picked them up and I'd have taken them home and I'd have calmly given them dinner. We weren't in such a rush. Not everything was like, rush, quick, Nanny's picking you up from here, then she's going to take you there, then Daddy's going to get you ready, then Mum is going to pick you up. It was just, they'd had this awful lead up to something that was already making them a little bit nervous. It's just another disadvantage for working mums that I can't, and for me to even leave work at that time to get home for 5 was a nightmare at work as well. So, yeah, just another disappointment of being a working mum.
Yeah, it was a very stressful situation, but hopefully we can get them there next time.
Yeah.
But I think we've done our best and couldn't really have done much different in that situation. I don't think so.
But bit of a more cheerier subject now, although it does feel a little bit strange for me. Don't know if you noticed, if you're watching on YouTube, it's November.
Got our Christmas jumpers out.
Yeah, we're going down that route. As far as I'm concerned, in